afternoon. I'm Jim Eskin. On behalf of Eskin Fundraising Training, it is my pleasure to welcome you to number 86 in our nonprofit empowerment series. And it's my pleasure to introduce a friend and colleague from Albany, New York, Mike Buckley. Mike, thank you for joining us. What's the weather like today in Albany? You don't have a hurricane, do you?
We do not have a hurricane. We don't have snow. It's actually probably the best time of year to be in upstate New York. It's 66 and the leaves are just starting to turn. So thanks, Jim, for the opportunity to be here and to talk about year end. And you're absolutely right. There are 94 critical days left in between now and December 31.
And there's a lot of money that can be raised, and Mike's going to help us learn how. Mike is, first of all, he has the highest credentials in our profession. He makes me embarrassed. He's a certified fundraising executive, so he has some initials after his name. I don't, and so I'm a little jealous there. I think in 2017, he founded the Killoe group in Albany, New York, and also he works with another colleague of ours, Marv Leroy, and Mike serves as the Northeast Region lead coach for the Institute for Philanthropic Excellence. He's much in demand and speaking, and so we're very proud to have him scheduled today. How's the Buckley family doing, by the way?
All is good, thank you, Jim. It's all is good.
Okay, well, there are 94 days left, so we're going to help folks learn how to make the best use of 94 days. And history teaches, there is a profound giving season. Once you pass Thanksgiving, tremendous annual giving happens in the month of December, and particularly the final week and final days. First, let me discuss a question about your firm, and I'm intrigued by its name. I know you have an interesting story for it. There are a lot of fundraising firms out there. What makes the Killoe Group different?
So I think the strategy that we use is really to help our partner organizations grow from good to great. I think there are some real intentional things you can do to look at metrics and look at how your organization is performing overall, not just with fundraising dollars, to build a sustainable resource engine. So I always say that our organization is really tuned into helping nonprofits grow from good to great and to build sustainability and to ultimately be able to meet their mission, but not do it in a flash in the pan kind of way to make it sustainable.
I went through your website and I love where you said you truly embrace the partnership model because you don't tell clients what to do. You make sure they get it done.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing.
Where does the name come from? That's an interesting story.
Oh, so the name of my firm, so I'm big into my family's genealogy. I am 100% Irish and can prove that.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, exactly. So Killoe is the name of the town that my great-grandmother was born in County Longford, Ireland. So I wanted to make sure that it represented a little bit of history and was bigger than just me. So I will admit, Jim, before you and I got on, we were talking about marketing. It is not the easiest name to say. And if I had to do it all over again, I might have thought differently, but I love it. And I love embracing my Irish heritage.
And I think it's distinctive. It gives you your brand. Okay. I like to always ask fundraising experts this question. Okay. It has nothing to do with the year-end push. Why do you think community and business leaders who are so fearless in everything they have to do in life are scared of asking for a gift for their favorite cause or nonprofit?
Because I think at our heart, we are all good people, and it feels like we should be doing it and not asking others to do it. So I think there is an intimidation. When we ask people for money, it's an emotional connection, which I think people also sometimes have a hard time with, and you're not getting a product. But much like I'm sure a lot of people on this call, I've been asking people for money my entire life. So I'm happy to have made a profession out of it.
Yeah. Okay, and let me ask you one more general question. And do you think we're finally maybe seeing light at the end of the tunnel? But do you ever think we're going to return the way fundraising was done before March 2020 and before the pandemic?
I think regardless of the time, the heart of good fundraising is about relationships and making connections and asking people to support a cause. So whether you do that in direct mail, digital, in person, the thousands of ways we can do that as professional fundraisers, the core of what we do will never change. That said, I'm encouraging organizations right now, for a lot of reasons, forget 2020 and 2021 and even 2022, because those fundraising numbers are not real. Those fundraising numbers were a result of a world crisis. So start to look at your 2019 numbers, grow sustainability off of those. But just know that, people showed us how generous they could be during a very difficult time. Provide them a reason to keep giving to you at that level.
Most of our audience, we have nonprofits from all different sectors, different parts of the country, but we tend to have smaller and mid-sized nonprofits who don't have the large staffs. And John Largent, if you could put the final countdown, Mike Buckley has developed a wonderful resource. I only wish I developed it. And can you take a few minutes? First of all, if you look in your chat space, on the upper right side, you'll see a link in which you can download this book absolutely free. And Mike, can you take a minute or two to talk about how you think nonprofits can use this resource? And first of all, thank you so much for producing it.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to share it. 1/3 of all fundraising happens in the month of December.
Repeat that again.
1/3 of all annual giving occurs in the month of December, and 12% of all giving tends to occur on the last 3 days of the calendar year. So I'm here to share with you what I think is a great resource, but I'm also here to share with you that good fundraisers don't take off the last week in December. So I might be ruining some people's vacations. I'll tell you, I'll be on vacation because all my clients will be back at their shop getting their year-end gifts in. But December is a real critical month, and really the fourth quarter of the calendar year is a real critical month. But instead of just going out and asking for money day after day after day, we put together this checklist as some activities and action steps you can take starting on Labor Day to drive year-end giving. So things like getting your messaging together. What is that message that you're going to share with your donor base? What are the action steps you're going to take? Are you getting together? Are you doing a big Giving Tuesday campaign? All of those things are in there. It is certainly not meant to be a direct roadmap. It is really meant for you to take it and apply it to your organization. And also keeping in mind, to Jim's point, not every organization has a staff of 10. Sometimes it's a staff of a half a person focused on fundraising. Think smart about what are the activities you can do in this guide to help grow overall giving at your organization.
And as everyone seeing the top of the chat space, there's a URL link, and you can download Mike's labor of love here absolutely free. So thank you. I talked two other things. I'm going to put this on my LinkedIn summary and my Facebook summary, so you can also get the link then. And we're going to send a recording tomorrow. So one way or another, it's on that top right-hand side. So that's the first thing I did when Mike sent it to me. I downloaded it. Congratulations once again. And thank you on behalf of the sector, because I think that's going to be tremendously valuable to our smaller and mid-sized nonprofits. Now, Mike, in a perfect world, a nonprofit would have started planning its year-end campaign almost at the beginning of the year, probably in the spring. But you and I know, guess what? It's not a perfect world. So if there's any one or two key things that you would urge the people in the audience to start focusing on tomorrow, what would that be?
I think there are two things. One, look at those individuals who gave to you in calendar year 2021 who have yet to give to you in calendar year 2022. These are our donors or your donors who are the most loyal and have the highest potential of giving to you again. So engage with them, send them an email, meet with them in person. I am a proud former student phone-a-thon caller. The power of making an actual phone call can never go unsaid. I think years ago, we thought everything would go via text message and emails. We get too many emails. We get too many text messages. If you have major donors, however you want to describe that or define that, your organization, passion, amount, whatever, longevity, whatever your most important donors are, and they haven't given to you yet in 2022, call them and connect with them and tell them the good work you're doing. So I think that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing is to think about setting up your campaign from Giving Tuesday to calendar year end. Are you going to be emailing weekly? Are you going to be on social media daily?
By the way, why don't you remind folks what Giving Tuesday is about?
Yeah, so Giving Tuesday is a national day of philanthropy for our sector. I have it's not my favorite day of the year. I will admit it is not. I think sometimes organizations put too many resources into it. It is, interestingly, the second highest day of giving of all year, December 31 being the highest, then Giving Tuesday being the second. But it only represents less than 1% of all giving. So don't put all of your energy into Giving Tuesday, but think about Giving Tuesday as your kickoff, and then figure out what is that messaging? How are you going to get your message in front of donors? And how are they going to make gifts? If I can add a 2B or maybe 2A in this situation, the other thing to think about today is if you're going to do a direct mail piece at the end of the year or more than one. If you're going to do that, start writing it now. Start getting your materials together now, because at least up here in the Northeast, there's a real weird envelope shortage. So we've been hoarding envelopes for a few months for our clients, and I know other nonprofits are having a hard time.
Does that fit into the supply chain crisis?
It does, yeah. Yeah, getting number 10 window envelopes for some of our clients has been a challenge, and I know other folks have faced that issue as well.
By the way, Giving Tuesday is usually the Tuesday after Thanksgiving and after Black Friday, which is the big retail day after Thanksgiving.
It also Cyber Monday. So there's really not a lot of money left for people, but as you can tell, I would love to share my, I could spend a whole hour talking about my actual feelings about Giving Tuesday.
Okay, we'll save that one. Hey, this builds on your last point, but a lot of times our best friends have already given to us. Can you talk about strategies in which you can go back to somebody who's already made a gift for you in 2022, but you think you can go back a second or third time because over history, they've proved to be very good friends?
Yeah, we as nonprofit professionals, I think, have to stop deciding for our donors whether or not they're going to give and what that gift amount is going to be. So especially when it comes to direct response, when it comes to email and direct mail, we have got to let people tell us whether or not they're going to give. So you can ask for a second gift. You can ask for a gift every month. It is up to the donor whether or not they want to give. But regardless of what your comfort level is, if you're doing it once a year or twice or more, you've got to have a reason why. And that reason why can't be because you need money. The reason why is because you're creating phenomenally wonderful things in your community, and people will give to you to help you meet that need. So make sure you have a well-written case. And by that, I mean a few sentences of what it is you do and why you do it, and ask people to support you, show outcomes of the work they've done, show impact of their giving.
Let's build on that. One of the things we're taught that we shouldn't fast, THASK, thank and ask in the same communication. Do you have recommendations on how you might thank and get to an ask? What's your thinking on that?
Yeah, I think that you can thank and you can subtly ask. Maybe not.
What would be subtle? What do you mean?
Well, I think that you can thank people and then follow up with an ask within a few days. I mean, think about they've given, they support your cause, you've thanked them, you've told them what their money will do, and provide for them an opportunity to keep giving to your organization. The number one way, it is a industry-wide fact that donors who are asked to give within, I think, 3 weeks of their last gift are most likely to do it because they're being asked and they support your cause. So this concept of annual giving, and listen, I not only am I a former student phonathon caller, but I cut my teeth in the annual fund office. That annual notion of we can only ask once a year, we've got to stop doing that. We've got to start asking more often and allow people to decide whether or not they're going to give to us more than once a year.
Okay, now say some of the people listening right now, their nonprofit is running behind where they want to be on their 2022 annual goal. How do you think they should message that?
Well, that's an internal situation. I think it's really important to keep in mind if you are not, as an organization, where you need to be, that's not my problem as a donor. But you can create a sense of urgency by talking about these are the great things that we plan to do this year. Are you willing to support it? So if your organization is running behind, I just actually got a solicitation from an organization that I support, and their message was, our fundraising numbers are not where they need to be. That might work for the short term, but that's not, if you keep coming back and telling me you're not where you need to be, after a while, my loyalty and my connection to you is not strong. So internally, you can panic all you want. Externally, start talking about the great things you do, the problems you're fixing in your community. Talk about them early and often and inspire people to give.
Hey, let's flip that around. How about if you're in the inevitable position of running ahead of your year goal? How can you message that in your year-end campaign? You're running ahead.
Well, congratulations. You still don't get to take the last week of December off. But I think if you're running ahead, and again, that's an internal conversation, talk about impact and outcomes and what your organization is doing. And because of you, Jim, you and I were talking about Jerry Panis and loved Jerry dearly and wrote many a great book. I think he's the inspiration for all of us in the consulting space. But one of Jim's lines was, because of you and your support. So because of you and your support, we're able to do these things in our community, which is great. The other side of that, though, is I would say if your organization is running ahead this year, don't assume that's going to happen next year. So do some real data analysis about why it is you're ahead. Maybe it's a will bequest that you got this year that you don't anticipate getting a similar one next year. So set some clear expectations at your board and with your executive director about why you're running ahead. Don't count on that. And that was to my comment earlier about 2020, 21, and 22 are anomalies. Look at 2019 and base it off of that.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about year-end strategies for the most inner circle of your constituencies. But if you could address board of directors and employees.
If they haven't given, if your board hasn't given, they should be giving. Big firm believer in boards should be giving. And that's a personal conversation. That's a one-on-one conversation. When it comes to employees, that can be a tricky conversation to have, and creating that need or that reason for giving. So, you can certainly ask employees. I will say a lot of nonprofit organizations, in my experience, skip over volunteers, and they feel like volunteers are already giving their time. but there's a statistic out there that says about 80% of volunteers actually give to the organizations they volunteer for. So
hey, that's huge. Could you repeat that again for our audience?
Yes. Yeah. So it's 79% of all volunteers make a financial gift to the organization in addition to volunteering. So there's no reason why you can't ask volunteers for money to support the ongoing work. They don't have to give, but you should be asking them. I think volunteers are a better opportunity than employees.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk about major gifts. We have nonprofits that have been cultivating Mike or Jim or John for several months. And, we have 94 days left in the year. Do you have any recommendations on closing major gift prospects?
Well, I would say any organization that's cultivating Mike for a major gift should give up, and that's a waste of their time. But no, I think about, just remember, donors give when they're ready to give. So if you need this major gift to come in by December 31, it's probably not going to happen. Donors, especially major donors, are going to make impactful gifts when they are ready to make an impactful gift. That said, however, you could think about asking them to be part of a challenge match. Major donors love to see their gift inspire others to give, and it can be anonymous. So think about if you have a good connection with that major donor and would really like for them to make that gift by the end of the calendar year, inspiring them to help encourage others. There's in the handbook or the guide that we shared, it talks about for Giving Tuesday, thinking about having a match. I know a lot of organizations would use matches for direct mail at the end of the year. So that could be inspirational, but also don't forget on January 1, we have to start all over again. So don't encourage people to give too much in calendar year 2022 and then have no one in your pipeline for 23.
Yeah. Hey, you alluded to this earlier in our conversation, but a lot of organizations, particularly big hospitals, big universities, tend to give the last week or two off, and that includes the development staff. What type of special arrangements should fundraising shops make, realizing that a lot of money is going to be made and there are a lot of donors are going to probably want to talk to you or get information on making a year-end gift?
Yeah, everyone's got to work that week. Unfortunately, I think you can get creative at your organization about, working remotely or rotating. I worked at a college, and although we were closed for that week in between Christmas and New Year's, we all took a day or two and made sure we were there. Think about at the heart of what we do as nonprofit professionals, as fundraising professionals, is we build connections with people to support the work of the organization that we represent. It's really hard to do that when you're talking to a voicemail or when you're talking to an email. It's better if you are there in person, especially with things like stock gifts and IRA transfers.
Yeah.
It's just easier. It's better to be there. Take the week after January 1st off. Like it's cheaper to go away anyway. It is. True. And no one's around. It's cheaper to go away. The weather will be just as fine wherever you're going. But at the end of the day, I think that personal connection is absolutely necessary. I've seen organizations, put on their website, leave a message and we'll get back to you. If a donor needs to give right now, you want them to make that connection with you.
And you don't want to miss those chances at all.
No, absolutely not. Because
you were talking before, the good thing is we probably never had the multitude of different type of media, different type of communication platforms to reach our donors and friends. What are your recommendations on what they call a multimedia strategy for a year-end campaign?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with resources. I think in a perfect world, and as a consultant, I know organizations bring me in to talk to them about best practice. And I get to talk about all the things that you should do and all the really cool things that are out there. But the reality is, if it's you as the entire fundraising department, you probably don't have the time to put together a multifaceted, year-end plan or calendar. But certainly think about direct mail. Direct mail is the number one way to raise gifts, period.
And by the way, direct mail, the news of direct mail's death is greatly over-exaggerated. Direct mail still works.
It still works, and people love having that tangible thing in their hand, and it sits. I mean, the average lifespan of a direct mail piece is 16 days. So think about your house, your mail at your house. I mean, it comes in, and what is the process it goes through to make a decision whether you act on something or you throw it out. So the average direct mail piece has a lifespan of about 16 days. The average email has a lifespan of about 16 seconds. So direct mail is going to work, but email certainly and social has a point. So start with direct mail, make sure that branded direct mail piece fits into your email or looks like your email. Send that out every so often, once a week or so. Put it on your social media. That's the basic. And also call your donors who you're about to lose.
And by the way, you're doing a great job of managing time, Mike. And so anybody in the audience, as John Larson told you, you can share questions via the Q&A or chat space. And we have plenty of time for your questions. Board members are so important. What are your recommendations on engaging board members in the end of the year campaign?
I think board members actually every board member should be willing to do this, but willing board members should be involved in part of your media efforts. So whether that be social media or email or even direct mail, getting them to endorse this. And I think the least board members can do is share things on their own personal social media. LinkedIn actually is becoming a very popular way for board members to communicate with their networks about what the organization that they support, you would hope, and of the board they sit on. But I think board members can really help press your message forward within their own their own communities, and they should be giving. I know there's a little bit of a controversy of that topic in our community. It's a growing conversation that I think needs to be happening, but at some level, I think every board member should be making a financially meaningful gift to the organization.
And so many funders and foundations, United Ways, one of the first questions is, what percentage of your board makes an annual gift?
Absolutely.
And if you have 100%, you go to the top of the pile. If you have something like, 10 to 15%, you're going to go at the bottom of the pile. That's so important. And I think even more so now. Mike, I see we have a question in the chat room. I think both of you and I can take an intelligent guess at. There's asking what percentage of organizations don't do year-end campaigns. I'd like to flip that. And what percentage do? And before you answer, I'm going to make you responsible. But I got to think it's a huge percentage. A lot of organizations might miss a lot of things they should do. I just can't think of an organization missing out on a year-end campaign.
Yeah, no, I think that question was actually in response to your number 94 question earlier.
94 days left.
Yeah, 94 days left. But to your point, interestingly, I would bet there is a small number of organizations that don't do year-end campaigns and just assume that gifts are going to come in. So that may be true, but think about one of the reasons why I don't like Giving Tuesday personally is there's so much noise that day, the days leading up to it. It's exhausting after a while, but you do have to make sure that people are remembering your organization and the good work you do, especially if they're folks who have already given. I mean, we are all so busy, and we have a few charities at our house that we support every year, one or two is bound to slip through the cracks and calling me and saying, hey, did you realize, like, I just wanted to let you know, thanks so much for your gift last year. I'm going to send you an email so you can follow up. That is so much more impactful than me having to remember whether or not I made a gift to the United Way.
Okay, what are your recommendations on nonprofits using social media, using LinkedIn and Facebook and other platforms as part of their end of year campaign?
Yeah, I used to be really up on social media, then I became older, and now I'm not 100% sure of all the ways to do it. But I think everyone needs a Facebook page. Everyone needs a LinkedIn page. Everyone should think about being on Instagram. You know, it isn't fun. Facebook and Instagram and all those platforms, they're not great ways to actually raise money. Very little revenue is coming through, but you're getting great brand exposure and great brand recognition. So absolutely do it. Absolutely make sure that it is part of your strategy, that every week or every other day or whatever you're able to do, you're posting and keeping that message out and reminding people, you know, the end of the year is coming. We need your support.
Yeah. What are your recommendations on sending communications that wish everyone a happy holidays?
I also think there's a lot of noise that time of year. Interestingly, for my consulting firm, I do send out calendars, but I hate that people keep sending me calendars. I don't need all the calendars at the end of the year. I will, however, encourage you to think about doing something around Thanksgiving. We encourage all of our clients to send out a Thanksgiving card, a thanks for giving card, you know, and you can get cute with the language and the photos and all of that. And it's not an ask. It's just it's a stewardship piece, frankly. That actually produces a ton of gifts as indirect, because people either remember they haven't given or they're so taken aback that the organization is actually thanking them again. I think when you think about year end and Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all the gift giving holidays, the water is really too muddy. Focus on Thanksgiving. Don't think about don't think about the holidays at the end of the year.
Let's talk about online giving systems. You know, more and more donors are making their gifts, and it's not just younger people, it's people of all ages. How can you ensure that your online giving system is working the way it should be? And how can you protect yourself? I would hate to say that here, Mike wants to give to Jim's nonprofit, but he runs into a glitch on my online giving system, and there's no staff around again to help fix it and call. How can you protect yourself against glitches when a lot of people might want to use the online system to make a end of the year gift?
So some of our harshest critics in the nonprofit space, I think, are the ones who we love the most. So I'll tell you what I do is, and Jim and John and I were talking about this before everybody got on, I have a almost 20-year-old godson who is in college in Florida, who actually evacuated to Miami Beach. So I'm not quite sure how much of evacuating is going on right now, but every client I get, and when we do an online assessment, I Venmo him $25 and ask him to make a $10 gift online. And the feedback I get from a 20-year-old is pretty honest about how easy it was, you know, what his thoughts were throughout the process. So think about that generation and that genre of folks when you're looking at your online giving page. Find a teenager to make that gift and tell you whether or not it was really easy. It should be as easy as point, click, give. The other thing I will add, just to we're still seeing the majority of gifts come in the old fashioned way of checks. So while your online giving page has to be easy, and if you can make it from your phone online using your iPhone with Apple Pay, that is the That is a gold standard. But don't discount the fact that people still write checks.
Yeah. And that's actually, I think, how the majority of gifts are made.
The vast majority of gifts.
And by the way, I hear my mother's voice for this one. What are the no-nos of year-end campaigns? You've been talking about what you should do. What should you avoid doing?
I think begging is...
what's the difference between asking and begging?
So I think begging, asking provides a good case for support and talks about outcomes and impact and things that you are going to do to help fix a problem in your community with these gifts. Begging is talking about, we're going to close our doors unless we get $20,000 or, would you please? There's actually very interesting research being done right now. I'm part of the fundraising effectiveness project as well. Where when we look at donor acquisition as a sector, as a world, as a nonprofit space, we've always asked new donors to come in at a low level because we feel like, well, if they give us $25, then we'll ask them to give $35, then we'll ask them to give $50. Why aren't we asking them to come in at $100 or $250? So think about that. If you provide a compelling case for donors, then I think ultimately they will give to you to talk. If you talk about outcomes and input, don't beg and plead for money. It's not what we do.
Hey, what are your suggestions in making the case? I love unrestricted gifts, and I think we should ask. And I talk to most executive directors. Unrestricted money is the type of money you need the most. How would you make the case for unrestricted gifts during the year-end campaign?
Yeah, everyone loves unrestricted, right? Well, I think first of all, if unrestricted dollars is what we need to keep our organization going, then and to meet the needs of the people in our community that we support, then we should be asking for unrestricted gifts. We should be asking for general fund gifts, however you want to wordsmith that situation. I think a lot of, and Jim, you and I have talked about this, a lot of our work with the Killoe group is puppies and trees. We do a lot of work in animal welfare and environment. And unrestricted dollars is what helps the organization drive forward. The animal welfare organizations probably don't need a food bank, food money for food, because they buy food in different ways. So unrestricted dollars is where it is at. Focus on the needs that you're meeting in your community. And, this almost sounds a little shady, and I don't mean it to, but you don't need to tell people that it's an unrestricted fund. It's going to support the general operations of the organization. But the minute you do, the minute you talk about, we're doing a special campaign to do this, then all that money has to go there. And if you're overly successful, your hands are tied.
Yeah. What do you think of making requests at holiday parties?
First of all, I'm not quite sure if we should still be doing them. The outcome of the last few years. We as professional fundraisers, I think, are sometimes rightfully told that we are always coming with our hand out, and it's okay to go to an event that is all about friend raising and fundraising. If you're at a holiday party that is being put on by your organization, you can certainly talk about your case, but I think it is weird, frankly, especially given where we're at in the world and society, to have your hand out at a holiday party. Yeah.
To me, that reminds me of the fast. You're probably throwing that party to thank your donors and supporters.
Right.
And you dilute the integrity of your thank you by asking them.
Exactly.
Okay, this is a real basic question, and we're doing great on time. But it's basic question. What counts as a gift for 2022? I think there's a lot of misunderstanding on this.
So I think the answer to that could be debated all day, but in my opinion, obviously it's any gift that comes in during calendar year 2022. And then I say any gift that has a postmark or a check date of December 31 or before, because if you ever get audited, that will be your proof. If you get audited or your donor gets audited, that will be your proof. But beyond that, your finance people want you to wrap up the year as quickly as possible anyway. So don't go beyond January 5 or 6.
To me, it's when the gift is transmitted. If I'm a donor and I write a check for $100 and put it in the mailbox and it's postmarked before December 31, it's 2022. If I go online, and I'll get, a computer response of when the gift was made. And if it was made at 11:59 on December 31st, 2022, it will count for 2022. I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding. It can be January 10th, and I'm going to play this trick of backdating the check December 31. That's not, it's when the IRS test is, when did the donor transmit the check?
Right. And if even, I go by, I would, just to make your life easier, I would definitely go by the post mark. But there also comes a time where if someone's sitting in the mail for 7 or 8 days, which I think does happen sometimes, particularly
around the holidays.
Yeah, it is. Certainly, if a check is dated January 1 and arrives on January 1, it is a new year gift.
Yeah.
And also, Jim, just to bounce off of that too, as you're looking at year end, as I said before, if you have donors who are, sort of flexible with when they give to you, if you did really well in 2022, you don't want to start out with nothing in 2023. So it's okay that there's that lag. It happens, and it's more than okay.
Yeah. Mike, you've done a beautiful job, and time has just flown by. And I'd like to finish where we started. I highly recommend everybody. John Larson, can you put the final countdown guide back on the screen? And again, Mike Buckley and the Killoe group is making this available free of charge. You can't beat that, folks. And the link for this, and go through a couple of the pages. I mean, this is a step-by-step guide. And I think it's a great resource for smaller and mid-sized nonprofits. It tells them exactly what and when and how to do it. And all you have to do, go to the chat space rather, and you'll see the link and you'll download. Also, we're going to put this on the Eskin Fundraising Training LinkedIn summary in a few minutes, and we're also going to put it on Facebook. And also tomorrow morning, we're going to send out both for everybody who participated and to those who weren't able to make it, the link. And so you can download this guide. But again, first of all, Mike, thank you for the service and leadership you have provided the nonprofit sector. Thank you for helping us with the final countdown step-by-step guide. And it is a great honor to consider you a friend and a colleague. And our time has just flown by. So John, unless we have any pressing questions, I don't see any in the chat space, I think we'll call it a happy hour at this point. So again, Mike Buckley, who, by the way, we got our calendars out. Mike Buckley was the last person I did a pre-COVID live event. I think it was March 11th, 2020. And we had barbecue, and we both calculated we were the last time we hugged someone outside our own family bubbles. So it's nice to work with you live. It's also a pleasure to work with you virtually. And again, thank you for the leadership and service you have provided to all the nonprofit sector, to our audience of professional and volunteer nonprofit leaders. Do yourself a favor and download and print the final countdown guide. If you don't have a plan, that will catch you up. You'll be ready for the final 94 days. So I want to say thank you to our nonprofit audience. Every day you do something that touches, improves, and saves more lives. And we'll be back in 2 weeks, and October 12th. And the topic then is to make the most of every marketing dollar you have available. We're having a repeat guest. She's really a terrific person on marketing, particularly for nonprofits. Katie Lord, who's a vice president with Truth Positioning. I believe she's out of Kansas City, Missouri. Mike, give my best regards to your family. Be well. And to our audience of learning community, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you from 2 weeks from now. Mike, thanks a lot. This was great.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, everybody. Feel free to reach out. Love to talk shop. Have a great day.
Oh, that's right. By the way, let's put the last, can you put Mike's contact information up on the screen, John? It's going to be in the recording that you're going to be sent. John? Well, and this, just so you have it, and you'll receive this, is Mike's contact information. He's in Albany, New York, so he's not contending with a hurricane. He's available. And again, do yourself a favor and download his year-end guide, the fundraising. And thank you, Mike, and thank you to our nonprofit friends, John Largent. Another smooth show, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everyone. Be well.
Thanks, everybody.